People often tell me they're waiting for the right time, the right feeling, the right circumstance. They say, I'll start when I'm ready. But the truth is you're never ready. You're never going to feel entirely capable or confident or certain because life doesn't offer that kind of guarantee. The conditions for meaningful action are never perfect. See, what most people don't realize is that in action, this quiet, subtle hesitation is a decision in itself. It's the decision to allow entropy to take the wheel, and entropy always wins if you let it. Chaos will fill the space you refuse to order. That's what happens when you delay. The longer you wait, the stronger the chaos becomes. Now, think about what that means psychologically. Every time you avoid something you know you should do, you're not just postponing a task, you're training yourself to become the kind of person who avoids. You're shaping your character around evasion and comfort, not courage and responsibility. And over time, that changes you. You become smaller, weaker, less able to face what's ahead. So the call to act now isn't just some motivational slogan, it's an existential imperative. Because your life is made up of moments, and those moments are slipping through your fingers whether you use them or not. There's no neutral ground. You're either progressing towards something better or you're decaying. If you want meaning, if you want strength, if you want purpose, you have to confront what's in front of you today. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel like it. Now. And that means you start small. You make your bed. You clean your room. You have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. You take responsibility for one thing, just one, and you do it well. And you'll find as you do that the world begins to organize itself around your effort. And look, that's not magic. It's not mystical. It's the consequence of aligning yourself with truth and order. When you act, when you confront the chaos voluntarily, you bring something noble into being, you transform suffering into meaning, you trade the unbearable weight of potential for the grounded satisfaction of reality. So don't wait for perfection. Don't wait until you're fearless. Act despite the fear. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision that something else matters more. And if you can do that, if you can take responsibility for your life now, even imperfectly, you'll discover that you're capable of far more than you ever imagined. You'll start to see that the line between what you are and what you could be isn't fixed. It's flexible. It's negotiable. And the negotiation happens through action. So go out there. Take the step. Start the thing you've been postponing. Bring order to your world today, not later. Because later doesn't exist. There's only now. And now is where everything changes. Inaction is not neutral. People often assume that by doing nothing, they're simply delaying a decision as if life will patiently wait for them to make up their minds. But life doesn't work that way. The world keeps moving whether you participate or not, and the chaos that you refuse to confront doesn't just stay still, it grows. Entropy is the natural state of things. Order is what requires effort. So, when you choose inaction, when you decide not to act, you are not standing still, you are actively allowing disorder to accumulate. You are surrendering your agency to the forces that thrive in your absence of engagement. And that's a terrifying realization because it means that every moment of hesitation, every excuse, every postponement has a cost. The world doesn't stop spinning just because you decided to pause. The bills still pile up, the relationships still erode, your skills still atrophy, and your confidence still diminishes. Inaction is a subtle form of decay. It disguises itself as safety because it doesn't look like failure at first. You think you're preserving your options, protecting yourself from mistakes, or waiting for clarity. But what's really happening is that fear is masquerading as prudence. And over time, that fear shapes your mind. You begin to rationalize your avoidance. You start to tell yourself stories like, it's not the right time. I'll do it when I'm more prepared. Those stories are comforting because they give the illusion of control. But control doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from engagement. By refusing to act, you hand over control to external circumstances and to the passage of time, both of which are entirely indifferent to your hesitation. When you avoid taking action, chaos doesn't just exist outside of you. It starts to take root within you. It begins to shape your thinking, your habits, your emotional world. The anxiety you feel about not doing something important grows in proportion to your continued delay. The longer you wait, the heavier the burden becomes. Eventually, you're not just avoiding a task, you're avoiding yourself. You become disconnected from your own sense of agency, that vital belief that you can shape your circumstances through effort and intention. Without that belief, you drift, and drifting is precisely what chaos demands of you. It thrives when you lose direction, when you let uncertainty and fear dictate your behavior. And this process is insidious because it feels passive. You tell yourself you're doing nothing, but in truth, something very active is happening. You're reinforcing patterns of paralysis. Every moment you choose inaction, you're strengthening the neural pathways that associate effort with discomfort and avoidance with relief. You're training your brain to see inaction as the safer, easier, more comfortable path. Over time, that becomes automatic. And what began as a single moment of hesitation becomes a lifestyle of delay and regret. The world is full of people waiting for the right moment. But the right moment rarely comes. Conditions will never be perfect because life is, by nature, imperfect and unpredictable. The irony is that by waiting for certainty, you ensure its opposite. You guarantee that uncertainty will define your life. The only antidote to that is action, imperfect, uncomfortable, immediate action. Because only through acting can you introduce order into chaos, clarity into confusion, and progress into stagnation. The act of doing something, even something small, begins to carve a path forward. It's how meaning is built. It's how growth happens. You cannot think your way into courage or plan your way into purpose. Those things are forged in movement, in engagement, in doing. Every action you take or refuse to take is shaping the person you're becoming. You're not just making isolated choices, you're building patterns, habits, and a moral structure that defines how you interact with the world. When you avoid something difficult, you might think it's a one-time decision, a momentary relief from discomfort. But avoidance doesn't vanish when the moment passes. It leaves an imprint. Each act of evasion reinforces the idea that you can't handle challenge, that comfort is safer than responsibility. Over time, those small retreats accumulate, and they begin to shape your character into something weaker, smaller, and more dependent on excuses than effort. The same principle applies in the opposite direction. When you confront something difficult, when you choose to face the task you've been avoiding, you send yourself a message that you're capable of standing up to the chaos that life inevitably presents. That message is powerful because it rewires your understanding of yourself. You stop being the person who hides from pressure and start becoming the person who grows through it. Each confrontation with difficulty strengthens your resolve, sharpens your discipline, and deepens your sense of integrity. You become someone who can be relied upon by yourself first and by others later. Character is not built through comfort. It's forged through friction, through the tension between fear and courage, uncertainty and faith, struggle and persistence. The decisions you make in those moments are not neutral, they're directional. They push you closer to strength or weakness, order or chaos, potential or decay. Every time you choose confrontation over avoidance, you reclaim a part of yourself that hesitation tried to take away. You prove through action that who you are is not fixed, but formed moment by moment, choice by choice. Meaning doesn't arrive by accident. It's not something that descends upon you when the circumstances are perfect or when you've finally achieved comfort. Meaning emerges through engagement, through taking responsibility for something and acting on it. The moment you decide to do something that matters, even if it's small, you begin to transform the abstract potential of your life into something concrete and real. It's the act itself, the commitment to act despite uncertainty or discomfort, that gives structure to your existence. Responsibility brings order, and order brings meaning. When you act now, you are declaring that your life, and what you do with it, matters enough to be taken seriously. Procrastination, on the other hand, drains meaning from life. When you delay action, you postpone the creation of structure. You leave potential unformed, and that potential turns into anxiety because you know deep down that you could be more than what you are, but you're not moving toward it. That internal conflict between what you are and what you could be is the breeding ground of frustration, guilt, and resentment. Acting immediately, taking responsibility for even one small task begins to bridge that gap. It transforms potential chaos into tangible progress, and progress, no matter how minor, restores your sense of purpose. When you act responsibly in the present moment, you align yourself with something deeper than mere productivity. You align with truth, with the natural order that rewards courage, discipline, and integrity. It's not about achieving perfection or avoiding failure. It's about willingly engaging with the process of becoming. Each action you take responsibly is a statement of intent, a declaration that you are not content to drift aimlessly through existence, but that you are willing to shape it into something meaningful through deliberate effort and consistent responsibility. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear, as though the brave are somehow immune to doubt or anxiety. But that's not true. Courage exists precisely because fear exists. Without fear, courage would have no meaning. What defines courage is not the lack of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. Fear is an inevitable part of being human. It signals vulnerability, the recognition that things could go wrong, that we might fail, suffer, or be humiliated. But if you let fear dictate your choices, you become its servant. You start building your life around avoidance instead of purpose, and everything meaningful begins to shrink away from you. When you choose to act in the presence of fear, you transform it, you reframe it from a barrier into a signal, a sign that what lies ahead matters enough to challenge you. Fear then becomes an indicator of potential growth. It points toward the edge of what you know and what you are capable of becoming. Acting despite fear is an act of defiance against stagnation. It's a declaration that your values and aspirations are more important than your temporary comfort. In that moment, courage becomes a moral stance, not merely an emotional response. And when you practice this consistently, something remarkable happens. Fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its control over you. You stop waiting to feel brave before you act, and instead you act, and that action creates bravery. Every courageous act, no matter how small, strengthens your character and broadens your capacity to handle the next challenge. You begin to realize that courage is not a single grand event, but a continuous discipline. A habit of choosing what is right and necessary over what is easy and safe now is the only real moment you have. The past is fixed and unchangeable, and the future is nothing more than a field of potential waiting to be shaped by what you do today. People often live as if tomorrow is guaranteed, as if they have endless time to correct their mistakes, pursue their goals, or become the person they imagine themselves to be. But tomorrow never truly arrives. It's always just beyond reach, perpetually transforming into another now. That's why transformation, growth, and meaning can only occur in the present moment. What you do right now determines the trajectory of everything that follows. Every decision, no matter how small, carries weight because it defines who you are becoming. When you postpone action, you're not simply deferring effort. You're surrendering the only opportunity that's real. The present is the intersection between potential and reality, and it's in that intersection that life happens. The person who acts now engages with life directly. They face reality as it is, not as they wish it to be, and by doing so, they develop strength, competence, and clarity. Waiting, on the other hand, traps you in abstraction. You end up living in your head, imagining a better version of yourself that never materializes because imagination without action is just fantasy. The present moment is where imagination meets discipline and becomes transformation. Every meaningful change begins with a single act of presence, with choosing to engage instead of delay. When you commit to the moment in front of you, you reclaim your agency and take ownership of your story. The future doesn't just happen, it's built moment by moment through what you choose to do now. The difference between who you are and who you could be depends entirely on how seriously you take this moment